Hello.
Hello, Lynne.
Hello, Jo. So funny, after all these years of knowing each other, and here we sit to tell all. So thank you very much, because you're here on holiday in the summerlands of Somerset, and you have broken your rule of never doing anything other than holiday, so I very much appreciate it. And you've even brought some lovely green and black chocolate with you, of course,
which we will be working our way through.
And yeah, there's so much to talk about, because I realised I was going through some of my archives the other day, and you were the first journalist back in those days where you came to LA and interviewed me about the beginning of Seed.
Oh my God, I did.
I got the press cuttings everywhere.
I remembered that I wrote about Seed. I had forgotten that I came to LA, but I did.
To LA when I was living in LA, and it was 20 years ago.
In Venice.
20 years of Seed.
Yeah.
And I've got this picture of me opening the door to you, For You magazine. And there's this really good photograph. I should have got them up, but I'll post them later when we broadcast this. But there's a great picture of me opening the door and you're there. And their life is extraordinary.
Yeah, it is.
Extraordinary. So if that was 20 years ago, and you were very much a working journalist then, had you started Green and Blacks at that point?
Yes. So, I mean, I continued to work throughout Green and Blacks because when you're building a business, you put all your money back into your company.
Sure.
You know, you don't take a salary unless you absolutely have to. So, and I've always found that my journalism...
Well, it wasn't just that, you loved doing it.
I loved doing it, and it always informed what I did, because as a journalist, as you know, you've got your finger in the wind, and you can feel the trends coming and you know what's happening. And if you're in business as well, you can use that to sort of shape the direction that you're moving.
Like being a PR,
it's like being a PR. You slightly live your life 3 months in advance of the rest of the world.
Because of the copy date of magazines. Yeah. So there's so much to talk about with you. We haven't got unlimited time. I thought we'd do just come up to an hour, maybe a little bit less. We've got the chat room open. There are more people going to be watching this on broadcast than they will be live. So if we have any great questions today, we will definitely answer them.
Yeah.
And we haven't known each other a long time, as I've said, and our lives are kind of woven in and out on so many levels, haven't they?
They have. I mean, I've known you since I was a baby journalist, or a baby magazine editor, probably.
Yeah, which was...
well, I was 23 when I became a magazine editor, so that was 1979.
And that was that Look Now or Honey? Everybody takes her age immediately. So what magazine were you editor?
That was Look Now.
That was Look Now, I thought it was.
And then Honey.
Which I have to tell you, this has nothing to do with anybody that's watching this, but Look Now had a fashion editor called Becky Baines.
She's a dear friend of mine.
And I saw her last week in the same flea market.
No.
Funnily enough. She comes up to Somerset to the flea market with her partner, and they sell things in a lovely shop.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So still friends after all this time.
So Look Now.
Look Now. So I was a preposterously young magazine editor. And Look Now, as probably some people will remember, it was a very kind of, it was a cool magazine, but for nice girls. You know, there was not much sex in there, but lots of cool bands and the things you need.
Lots of fashion.
Lots of fashion. Beauty. Fantastic. Becky, who you mentioned, was a brilliant fashion editor.
Great, yes, Becky was wonderful.
Real talent spotter. And so I did that for 3 years, and then I got headhunted to go and edit Honey magazine.
Yes, that's why I was getting confused, because Look Now and Honey.
Yes, and that was kind of amazing time in the 80s of Body Map and all of that, you know, Catherine Hamnett and all your clients were huge.
And we gave lots of parties.
And you gave a lot of parties.
Which was most of the fun of it was the parties, I think. Really.
Yeah, and it was great networking. You know, it was a great time to be a magazine editor, I have to say. I mean, they were the kind of glory days, I think, and one was left very much to be creative, and you know, or the business side kind of took after it.
I mean, did you think you'd ever go into business at that point? No. Because you were such a dedicated editor.
I mean, it wasn't literally until the opportunity to do Green and Blacks came along.
Yeah.
But I realise now, with hindsight, that actually when you have a magazine, you are running a business. I had a team of 26 people. I had HR issues. I had budgets. I had deadlines. I had projects. I had, you know, I was selling to advertisers. I was doing all of that. So it was kind of a process of osmosis, learning how to do business. But I never thought of myself as a business person. I thought of myself as a creative.
Do you think of yourself as a business person now?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think much more.
After these years,
much more business-like.
You've earned more business.
More business-like.
You've earned your medal on that one. So you got into business, of course, through meeting your husband, Craig Sands, who has been an entrepreneur in holistic health and food for
the dog's licking
ever.
my leg every
Is
time.
that the noise? Noodle, come over here. Noodle's a regular star of
How
these
to do a
things.
Zoom with
Yeah,
dog
my dog
licking your
licking,
leg,
yes. She likes you, it's a good sign. Find out she likes the chocolate.
So yeah, I got into business because this, you know, a predecessor of this bar of chocolate landed on my husband's desk, and I tasted it. And so Craig founded Whole Earth Foods in 1960. Well, he founded Whole Earth in about 1972. He'd had Europe's first macrobiotic restaurant in 1967. You know, he'd been to the Wharton Business School, so he's a proper hippie entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you know, he had this series of natural food businesses, believing that he could change the world through food, basically. And we'd met when I was quite young, but we didn't really get together till I was in my early 30s. And
I remember it well. I was at the wedding.
At the wedding, very colourful wedding.
Very colourful vegetarian wedding.
Very colourful vegetarian wedding. Much whinging from our non-vegetarian friends about the fact we serve veggie burgers at our wedding. But there you go.
Yeah, ahead of your time, as always.
Well, that was Craig's creation. It was his brother Gregory invented the veggie burger.
Yeah.
I mean, the first veggie burger.
Yeah, I know.
We're not just talking about, you know, a veggie burger. They actually trademarked
the Sam's
name.
brothers and the things that they started in the food business has been absolutely extraordinary.
They're absolutely extraordinary. So
and
anyway,
then you, this dynamic, beautiful young editor, way ahead of your time. It's like the two had to meet, really. I mean, you're so different, the two of you, but at the same time, you're so perfect for each other, and it's like jum, and
you know, we talk about the fact that Green and Black's got its name from the fact it was organic, which made it green, and black because it was the darkest chocolate on the market at the time. But actually, it was also because green was eco, but also black has always been stylish. It's always been hip and cool, the little black dress and all of that stuff. So it's got some kind of second meaning as well, because I came from that fashion-y world, and I understood what those sort of people were never going to buy an organic chocolate that was in a kind of beige wrapper that looked like muesli on the outside, you know. And so it was so that was my idea, to make it look luxurious and to bring the kind of, you know, the chic, the style, the luxury to the chocolate. Which the name does in itself.
The packaging has always been brilliant. The name's always been brilliant. And the story, and I want to move on to the story, which I'm sure, and I know you've told a billion times, but I remember when both of us, and again, when our lives were very much going around the same kind of dance, if you like, we belonged to something called Social Venture Network.
Social Venture Network, which Anita Roddick got me into. Right,
and Anita Roddick started that with Ben Cohen and Ben and Jerry, and we were two of the few UK members when it was the American.
And I mean, it was amazing because you would go to these networking events for people who were trying to change the world through business. Yeah, but we were real outsiders at that time. We had to get together to kind of pat each other on the back, going, it's okay. Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of them in California and the States. They all had long hair and they were hippie businessmen, and they started enormous businesses.
Yeah. Gary Hirschberg from Stonyfield Farm, who went on to sell his yogurt company
to Danone. Yes, I did some work with him once he was at Danone.
Yeah,
and then Whole Foods, of course. Body Shop, Ben and Jerry.
So you go to these meetings in Colorado or Boston or wherever, and it would be, you know, there would be Ben and there would be Jerry, and there would be Anita and there would be Gordon, and it was
extraordinary.
It was a terribly important support to me at that time.
Interesting that every single one of those companies is, of course, sold to far bigger companies and now are part of whatever companies they are part of, including Green and Blacks, of course. And I think that whole thing of heritage and how the business moves on was a big conversation between all of you.
It was a big conversation.
Body Shop too.
What I realised, I mean, I think that for the years that Body Shop was at L'Oreal, it was a bad fit. It wasn't. Yeah. And I think if Anita had lived, she would have been much more strident and made sure that they kind of kept her vision alive.
As Ben Cohen, and I don't remember the comment coming from you, but I do remember quite a few of the others saying, no, the people that are buying us have absolutely promised that we're going to influence them and they're going to change all their values to our values.
Well, that's happened happened with Mondelez, which bought, you know, Cadbury's bought Green and Black.
Yeah.
And Cadbury's was then acquired by Kraft, and Kraft split into two, and we became part of Mondelez, our division. And, you know, they've got a $400 million project in West Africa called Cocoa Life, which is all about, it's working with 13 NGOs
That's
on the
amazing.
ground. It's all about not only teaching the farmers to farm better, but they work with all these different charities to establish what those villages need, whether it's water infrastructure, whether it's education. And it's absolutely in the fibre of what they do,
That's wonderful.
And so I'm less cynical about big business buying.
Well, Unilever too, who bought Ben & Jerry's. I mean, Unilever are a very socially responsible organisation.
They've just declared that they're going to remove all petrochemicals from their cleaning materials, and they've
they do very good
they've got
things.
Ren, and they've got other brands which are all becoming it's partly because the people in those big companies want to change.
About to say,
they all want to feel like they're not just getting out of bed working for the man.
They want to know there's
values. They want to know that they're making a difference themselves. So I see big business changing very much, although I think that, one of the things about the pandemic is the way that everything except the pandemic has dropped off the media radar completely, and as we know, masks are in an entire category of litter in their own right, and
fashion, and
so there's still a long way to go, and I do feel like we've slightly taken a step back.
We've taken a step back in many areas of life,
but we have to kind of redouble and
we do. But what I always loved, I loved all your stories about all your multifaceted projects and successful businesses. But what I've always loved at the beginning was remembering you at these SVN meetings. It was a long time ago, weren't they? Like what, 25 years ago? And you were sort of very English and kind of like this. And you stood up and did your talks at SVN to all these very successful hippie business people. About how you started, and it's such a fantastic story, and I've written about it. In fact, it's in the Seed Handbook is the story that I heard you say, and it's always really affected me, was how you got people to know about green and black chocolate, which of course has been made and designed as a chocolate where you, as you're talking about the people that own the company now, has always been very, very conscious of the people that are making the products, growing the coffee, growing the cocoa. So how did the whole thing start? I don't know why I say coffee then. It's whatever the chocolate that they are growing.
Well, the thing about sustainable business is that it's a two-way, it's a win-win. It's a two-way thing. So we were the first ever fair trade marked product in the UK, and if you can lift up these people in the developing world, it is the most wonderful thing, because then they start.
And this was in Belize.
This was in Belize originally, although we have always had these strong relationships with our growers.
Yeah.
And but the reason it works is because it's a two-way thing. So we gave them 5-year security with a contract that so they knew that they were going to go on getting money for 5 years. But it also was to our advantage, because we knew that we could get chocolate from them for the next 5 years. Whereas at a time, so that was a time when you couldn't necessarily, you couldn't go out and buy chocolate on the commodity market, organic cocoa on the commodity market. And so, that's why these things work so well, because it's about relationship building.
So just to go back to the original product. So first of all, you had the chicest
the darkest
in the market. You had
the darkest chocolate,
which the chicest market.
Supermarket buyers.
You were the first fair trade brand, which in itself is something to applaud, because for a new company to take on the expense of being a fair trade brand, because it doesn't come free, I know.
No, it's not free, but it was worth every single penny.
And then going from there into how you would then do the marketing, and this is the story that I love. Of course, the Methodist story. It's brilliant.
I believe that when you're doing the right thing, the universe gets behind you. And we had some amazing things happen with Green and Blacks. We had some extraordinary help. But when the Fair Trade Mark launched, it had a kind of group of people behind it that included Oxfam, Catholic Fund for Overseas Development, the Joseph Rowntree Trust, Oxfam, the Women's Institutes of Great Britain,
the most powerful organisations of their
time. The most august and powerful organisations who all loved this idea of, building these relationships with people in the developing world and enabling them to get a better price for their product, etc. So they all, there were churches all over Britain organising tastings of our chocolate, you know, which, but the
best PR, the best PR I've ever known.
So I get a call one Friday afternoon from somebody, and literally, I mean, at the point, I've got 2 phones on my desk. I've got my phone for my journalism, I've got my phone for Green and Blacks, and I'm going, hold on, Dee, you know, editor of You magazine, hello, Green and Blacks. It was just like that. And I get a call from somebody who said, do you realise there's a run for fair trade going on through the streets of Britain? And 20,000 young Methodists have been running. And some of them are carrying a flaming torch in one hand and a bar of your chocolate in the other. And the idea is that these people, their destination is their local supermarket. And they ask to see the manager, and they basically lobby the manager to see your chocolate, to sell your chocolate.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this can't be
happening. This is
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I have to look up in the telephone book in those days, can't Google it, the headquarters of the Methodist Church, and I ring, asked to speak to the press office, and say, can you just tell me a little bit, is there a run for fair trade going on? And it's absolutely true. And 20,000 young Methodists had been running through the streets of Britain, basically selling my product for me. And funnily enough,
Didn't the vicars get involved as well?
Oh, there were vicars. Oh, yes. The next thing that happened was I got a call from the Sainsbury's buyer who said, "What's this chocolate that all these vicars keep ringing me about?" Then, you know.
Really?
So, so basically, the church got behind the product because it has
what
strong
better
values.
influences could you?
What better influences could you have? And so you can't buy that kind of thing. You can't make it up, basically.
No.
And it was absolutely hilarious.
So
but as I say, I think when you're doing the right thing, you know, the forces of the universe get behind you. And if I have one legacy at all, it is that we have helped to make people think more carefully about what they buy and where it comes from, and the people who produced and grew it and created it and made it.
Yeah.
You know.
And
you know,
of course, that to go back to Anita Roddick, who we both mentioned, who was a great friend and inspiration to both of us. And
she was my mentor, basically.
She was an amazing person. Of course, that was her big philosophy, and every level on her value statement was getting the consumer responsible. In fact, she wrote a book called Responsible Consumer or something like that.
Yeah.
Also wrote on the cover of the Seed Handbook when I launched it, which was one of the best things ever. But she was a extraordinary woman, went far too early, as we know. Yeah. But even so, her legacy that she has left certainly is there, not just with a huge success, but it's filtered down.
We were just talking about L'Oreal. You know, they've now sold Body Shop to Natura, which is a huge natural Brazilian company. Yeah, which I think they will do great things with it. They are experts in home selling. And I think they'll probably do that with Body Shop, and you know, it's a much happier place.
Fit.
That people who understand it's not a corporate brand.
No, well, no, it's very good. I mean, the home selling thing, which is partly what we're developing with Seed, in terms of training people up to run their own pods, seed pods, and bringing in products that we all believe in and can sell. I mean, that again is still very much the future. Come from the past of the days that we were out there working in this area with Anita, and also Neil's Yard, who's Romy Fraser, who's also sold, but they're around here, they're local.
Yes, no, they're
still keeping the same, same philosophy.
Yeah.
I know it's and they were all part of what women want that I did. So
there comes a point when you just can't do it yourself anymore. No. You've reached, it's the Peter principle, you've reached the level of your own incompetence, and you know that you need an injection to get it to where it belongs.
Yeah, no, I absolutely understand.
And I think it happened with us when we were, it was about 2.5 million a year we were turning over, but we were growing 100% every year. And that's when a lot of companies just break. They just, because, you know, if you've got a commodity like this, you're always having to hold vast amounts of stock, and you're not being paid. You know, supermarkets pay in 180 days very often.
Yes.
You know, but we have to pay our supplier.
I mean, I also sold my business, as you may remember. So not quite so happily, I would say, but you know, you get all these offers, and there's a point where it's going to grow that bit further.
Yeah. And Craig and I are still involved. I mean,
I am very. What's your role?
I'm a chocolate ambassador.
Are you? That means you've always got lots of chocolate.
Definitely worse things to be. Yeah, I've probably got half a ton of chocolate in my house at any one time, but I never even think about it. We have one bar on the go, like
at any given time.
Yeah,
at any given time. And so once you'd built Green and Black up to this enormous success and were less involved on a daily basis and had carried on doing your journalism, that's when you, well, no, actually, at the same time you were doing the beauty Bibles. You worked even before you went to
I did.
You talk about the beauty Bibles.
Beauty Bible started in 1995. I guess Sarah and I got together. Sarah Stacey is another beauty editor. So I never planned to be a beauty editor, but it was just something that as soon as I started to, because I've written about everything from sumo wrestling to Romanian orphans to elephant polo to having an eco column in the Times. You know, I've covered a lot of ground, and I never thought of writing about beauty. But somebody, it was Eve Pollard actually, asked me to write a beauty article for the Sunday Express where I was under contract.
She was my boss when I read my very first job. It was so round.
She's a great she's a
dynamo. She is, and very, very supportive.
Anyway, she took over the Sunday Express magazine where I was under contract, and she asked me to write some beauty. And I think the thing about it is that I came at it from a kind of more questioning and investigative point of view. I didn't just take things at face value. Most beauty editors at that time had come up through the beauty cupboard and you know, didn't ask questions in the same way. Then came along a generation of journalists who really did ask questions, actually. So as soon as I started to write about beauty, it was like it wouldn't let me go. People just kept, because I didn't buy the bullshit. I was interested in finding out whether things actually did work and what worked and sharing that.
And how they were made.
And how they were
what
made.
They were made
and
from.
What they were made from.
Yeah.
And so Sarah Stacey, one day, we were actually at a Dior launch in Paris, as one was in those days, the glory days, said, I've got this idea for a book. And it is, the premise for the book is that we give real products to real women to try. So that every product goes to 10 women and we put them through their paces and we make that a part of the book. We wrap it with all the beauty wisdom that we've gleaned over the years. And she was a very esteemed health writer as well. So she's always brought the well-being aspect to what we do. So the brands, because I was a high-profile beauty editor and because they knew Sarah very well, they were incredibly generous supplying these products for women to try. So we put together panels of 10 women, they got 10 products, they got incredibly detailed forms. And we're still doing it today online. We wrote, I think, 10 books.
Incredible.
And then, which, I mean, it's a military operation, getting these products in and sending them out.
Yes.
But it's fascinating because actually in the beginning when we went to see publishers, they said, oh, beauty books don't sell. And we were like, well, we know why they don't sell, because women are used to reading magazines where it's very specific about what product they recommend. And every single beauty book you pick up is utterly generic and says a mascara or a face cream, and actually you just want to know which one, you know, tell me which one. So that's been at the core of what we do. We now do, we call them the Beauty Bible Awards now, we do them online, and we've just done another round as soon as the, you know, so
how do you do that? Have you got a little office for that? Is it the business? And
we call it,
you've got so many
in
businesses.
my basement, and we refer to it glamorously as the beauty dungeon.
Okay.
And that's where it just comes in and goes straight out again, basically. And I have a team of 2 plus Sarah, who works remotely in, she lives down this way. Yeah, and we do it every year, and you know, we have women who just won't go shopping without it, quite rightly.
I mean, it has changed the beauty industry, I think.
It had huge respect from people, because we really put things through their paces. And with anti-aging creams, for example, Miracle Cream, we get them to use them on one side of their face. And in the beginning, we didn't think they'd really do that. But then we started to get all these letters then, saying, is it okay if I start using it on the other side? Because my face is lopsided. And we still get that now. So we know that there are things that really work. But you know, most tried and testeds in a magazine, you know, you've got, I have to say, it's a fake tattoo that I got in I took on holiday. No, it's not real. I pretended to Craig it was real on Sunday. And doesn't want me to spoil my body with a tattoo. So even now, you know, we get so many emails from women saying, I just can't shop without it. So it's been tricky this year, obviously, because we had to go into deep freeze for 3 months with girls not being able to come to the office and people not being able to send product out. But it's all just
starting to move again.
No, it's really happened. I mean, we've got thousands of products out there being tried right now.
That's incredible.
So, yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't suppose you want to tell me the face product I must have. That's
Do you know,
hard,
one of the highest scores we ever had was for Neal's Yard frankincense night cream.
Isn't it?
Their very first frankincense product.
Yeah.
And what was really, and in fact, at the time, I think I'm not inaccurate in saying, Neal's Yard was having a very hard time. And the book was serialized in, could have been Sunday Express, could have been You Magazine, but I think it probably was You Magazine. And this cream came out top. And not only did it reverse Neal's Yard's fortunes at the time, it created a global shortage of blue glass.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But not frankincense.
Not frankincense. No, I think there's a lot of frankincense. Which is a
very, very special.
It is a very special thing.
Yeah.
So it's still a fantastic range. It's still a fantastic
I love
product.
Neal's Yard. I agree with you.
And what I have seen, which is very gratifying over the last, I would say, 5 years in particular, but especially the last 18 months, is just this huge surge in effective natural products, things that are indistinguishable in texture and from a Clarins, for example, which I've always maintained was the only way the beauty industry was ever going to really get people to buy natural products, was if they had a familiar texture and they behaved in the same way as what they were used to using. Because it's very hard to make people switch to something that they go, oh, I like what it's doing, I don't really like when it pulls on my skin.
It is amazing. I know, because we sell lots here, how many small entrepreneurial businesses have been set up by women making and selling their own natural beauty products. Beautiful products.
Beautiful products.
I mean, there's lots around Somerset. I'm sure there's lots around all sorts of areas and other regions that we bring them in from, but they're always women. They're entrepreneurial, small.
I mean, they're literally
from the kitchen table.
Literally kitchen table, like
Helena Rubinstein started and Estée Lauder.
Yeah.
They all started kitchen table, and we're back to that. But now, real care about the products and the contents and the packaging, which is of course wonderful.
The packaging, because again, you know, it's the same with green and black. So you shop with your eyes. You know, you want something that looks nice on the shelf
and is recyclable, and you know that it's not going to do harm to the planet. I mean, this whole shift to glass from plastic and paper and card from plastic is obviously big influence in the beauty business as much as anywhere.
Always complicated, because plastic is much lighter and its carbon footprint is sometimes lower than glass, and you know, it's all the minute you peel away any of these issues, they're hugely complicated.
So, but
I still think that I think refills. Once we get back to refills, again, it's something that's gone out of the window.
Which Anita started again. The refills
again. But you know,
refills.
The hygiene issues around refills at the moment are such that it's hard to do, but hopefully we'll get back to that again. I mean, I think refills are really the way forward. Yeah,
no, I agree with you. And we have a little shop here in Wincanton that sells domestic products that are all natural from refills. I mean, we sell Bramley's products for our bedrooms, and we work for the Radical B&B, and we work with refills. It is the only way. I agree with you. So after this enormous success of changing the beauty industry, the beauty Bible, then Jo, actually I'm really then the bakery. When I started thinking about, because I'm more than aware of everything you've done, we've been friends for years, as I said, our lives have sort of twined and danced in and out of each other. When I really start thinking about the amount of things you've done, it is just I'm not done yet, not finished yet.
I hope I don't have any more.
Not planning to open it. Okay,
no.
We're going to end the meeting.
When I think about
the conversation.
When I think about them, I want to go and have a lie down. I mean, it's just, but you know, I, like you, I'm somebody who rolls up my sleeves and does things, and I realise that, you know, a lot of people in the world like to talk about doing things. They love to talk about doing things. They're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
But actually, the number of people that are prepared to sit down and literally, you know, write a list and start ticking things off that list and put one foot in front of the other and not stop until it happens, and then realise that that's just the beginning, because now it's an actual thing with a life of its own.
We have it's a little obsessive. I'm not talking about you actually, I'm talking about me. And it's yes, it's something sometimes I look at my own patterns and think, oh, let go now, you're old enough.
Now I just give ideas away. I literally give away, because I never stop having them.
No,
but I just
it's a creative process that's so enjoyable, really. I think for both of us. So tell me about Judge's Bakery. The award-winning Judge's Bakery is always referred to.
In 2001 we moved to Hastings, where we live, where we're very happy, and you know, it was the best thing I think I've ever done. Moved to the seaside, could swim every day, you know. But the great frustration was no good food. And so I would come home from London with groaning bags of Whole Foods goodies, etc., and good bread, and there was nowhere to buy. There was a lovely little health food shop, but very much a health food shop, you know, of the old ilk at the time. And I realised that if I was coming home with, you know, good cheese and beautiful vibrant vegetables and a fabulous loaf, etc., probably lots of other people were too.
And Hastings as a town has changed and gentrified.
Well, it has a lot
since you've been there.
Yes,
partly because all your friends have come down there. I don't know why.
Not all my friends.
You almost so really did. I should have done, but here we are. It's upset. Perfect. But there, yes. So
I did a story about Lady Bamford and Dalesford, who I think I did the first story about her. I think she's done incredible things. You know, she's utterly committed.
Yes, amazing business.
And you know, I'm always very admiring of people who basically could spend their life on their sun lounger, but choose to work incredibly hard instead. And that is totally what she is. She is very driven. So I wrote the first story about the first Dalesford farm shop, and it was You magazine. I have to say, put it on the map. And I took Craig back there for a visit because I was so taken with it and so impressed by it.
Is this the one in Oxfordshire?
The one in Oxfordshire. So, you know, it had a creamery, it had a bakery, it had a shop, it had everything.
Had the cows, had the whole thing.
It was all very, you know, farm to table right there. And again, it looked very stylish, the end product.
Yeah.
And very casually, when we were in the bakery area, Craig, who had London's first organic bakery, was chatting with the baker and said, oh, I've always fancied opening an organic artisan bakery in Hastings. Well, that was the first I'd heard of it. And I kind of didn't think any more about it. And then about 6 months later, after he'd left Dalesford, Emmanuel, Haji Andrea, the baker, rang up Craig and said, is anything happening with that Whole Food bakery in Hastings, with that artisan bakery? To which Craig said no. And then 3 days later, somebody came up to us, just randomly said, did you know Judge's is for sale, which is the bakery? So that seemed like a sign. So we bought it, and the idea was we would put in a one-stop organic and natural food store and turn the range of bread organic, which we did. And I think we probably still got the thickest file that a soil association has ever had, because we had to convert jam donuts, pink meringue pigs, you know, so you can't use red colouring, you have to use beetroot juice and all of these things, massive experimentation. But we managed to convert the existing range without any of the customers being able to see the joint. I remember the one thing we couldn't do was there was a traffic light cake that had a bright green traffic light sign. And we couldn't do it organically. We had to use.
And who was doing all the cooking? Not you and Craig.
No, we took over a team of 17 people.
Oh, right.
And actually converting the staff was probably harder than converting the recipes.
I understand.
For many years, I had people saying to me, when are we going back to doing things the old way?
Was it gluten-free, some of it as well?
Some of it was gluten-free, you know, and we converted the listed shop, you know, we made it look fabulous, and that was you know, that was a whole process. We kept it open while we were converting it. So we'd shut half and keep the other half open. I remember we worked out of one half and we were literally like this behind the counter. So somebody said, I need a sausage roll. You kind of pass the sausage roll along behind the counter because you couldn't, anyway, it was a massive, massive thing. I was never...
Because I saw the front of Judges, which was wonderful, but of course I never knew all the backstory.
No, well, it's
never that simple.
It's never that simple. And I was never meant to work there after we opened. And Emmanuel had come along with his wife, Lisa, and she was pregnant. And so so she basically gave birth about a month after we opened as the new Judges.
Right.
And she did work right up to the day.
Oh, so they came and worked for you? They left Dalesford?
They left Dalesford. He ran the bakery side.
Okay.
Lisa did the shop because she'd set up the Dalesford farm shop.
Oh.
So the idea was that Lisa would run it, but she had the baby and I found fantastic maternity cover for her, manager of the local Holland Barrett, who broke her ankle on the third day. Luckily not on the premises, but out for a drink. And so suddenly, here we are, middle of the school holidays. I've got no manager. Nobody knows how to do anything because it's all new to them. So I literally put my apron on, and for 2 years, I was in that shop every day. Literally 362 days out of 365 for 2 years.
And still doing all the other things you were doing?
And doing the journalism. So I would get up and Beauty Bible. So I'd be up at 4 or 5 if I was lucky. Write, go down to the bakery at 7, do a day at the bakery, cash up, which is, I don't know why you're supposed to cash up in the evening. You are so knackered that you can't actually count coins anymore. So, and then there was one point during that time when I did actually wake myself up snoring at my own dinner party. That was the real low point.
Yeah, I have had evenings like that back in the day.
But you know, it helped.
But that's incredible
to change the town. It became somewhere that people like us, if you like, felt that they could go and live because they could get the kind of food they wanted to buy.
Yes.
And it's, you know, it's definitely helped the town. And also other people saw that we could make a business work there and they had a go. And so we've got such a thriving retail environment.
Oh my God, there's incredible shops in Hastings now. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. They are. And so you sold Judges eventually?
Yes, I mean, I finally extracted myself from the bakery.
I had no idea you were there every day.
Oh my God, yes.
It's very tiring work.
Very tiring work. I mean, I wasn't baking, but I was
running a shop. Yeah, you're behind the counter. No, I understand.
And you know, we had always been a community hub, but it became even more so. And, you know, my big kind of game with everybody was that they had to learn as many customers' names as possible, so that you know, even now we walk down the road and Craig goes and I go, hello Mrs. Flippants, hello Prue, and Craig says, how do you know that person? I go, I not only know their name, I can tell you what bread they like. But you know, I think that is what makes a community.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
You know, it's having people greet you by name. Yeah. You know, during lockdown, it was amazing. Everyone looked after each other so well.
Yeah. Well, to a degree, that's been the same in this little town. I've never lived in I mean, this is a much smaller town in Canton than Hastings, but I've never lived in a small English town before. Yeah. And, well, actually, that's not true. I was in Forest Road before that was even smaller. But just having that sense of community is really, really important.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So, and then you didn't stop.
And then I didn't stop.
And then the perfume business, how did that go?
So the Perfume Society it had its genesis in You magazine and Beauty Bible in a funny way, in that I was doing a story for You magazine about perfume. I'd started writing about perfume back in 1991 and I'd won prizes for it, and I'd never won an egg and spoon race before, you know, and I was just
not somebody. The Jasmine?
The Jasmine. So I didn't know it existed when somebody entered me for it. They entered a piece I'd written. And I always loved writing about perfume because it's really hard. You have to take something that's invisible and intangible and you have to turn it into words that communicate what it's like to somebody who's never smelled it. And you know, for a journalist, I think it's one of the biggest challenges there is. And I was doing a story for You magazine where I was going to get 10 readers, 10 bottles of that season's perfume. They were going to smell them, and I was going to share their opinions, a bit like Beauty Bible does, but for perfume, in a feature in You magazine. And I'd got 2 people there. One was my editor, Sue Peart, who's, we love Sue Peart. And the other was Lorna Mackay, who I'd known since she was the fragrance buyer at Harrods. Mm-hmm. She was always one of my go-to experts because she really knows her stuff. And she had, one of the things that I nagged her about for years and years was when she was at Harvey Nichols and then at Liberty, she had an algorithm, a computer algorithm on an old Amstrad computer with a dot matrix printer. And if you keyed in a fragrance that you liked, it would make recommendations for 6 other fragrances that you would also like. And it was bloody psychic, this thing. And I've just gone on at her for years about bringing it back to life.
That was the early days of algorithms.
That was the early days. It really, really was. This was 1992. Incredible. It was extraordinary. So there I am putting, it's a table about this size, putting the fragrances out. And I make this throwaway remark saying, it's so weird, there's no perfume society. So to which Sue Peart says, well, Jo, I think you better set one up.
And you immediately did.
I'm going, this is insane. So I Google it, and the first entry that comes up is Steak Appreciation Society. And that's when I realized that it really didn't exist. And I realize now with hindsight that there are 2 reasons that there was no hub like this for people. One is that in order to make an organization like that happen, in order to bring all the information together, and I'll talk in a minute about what we do, but you've got to be able to knock on the doors of everybody from Chanel to L'Oreal to all of the niche brands and all of that, and have them open, because otherwise you're just doing it as a hobby in your spare room, basically, because you like perfume. Well, of course, I've known these people for years and years. So they knew me. They also knew I had a reputation with Green Blacks for luxury.
And the Beauty Bible.
And the Beauty Bible. So the doors opened. And the other reason, which I had no idea of, you can't set up a business called a society just like that. And I didn't find that out.
I don't know why.
Until
I didn't know that.
I went to open a bank account, and they said, no, you can't open a bank account in the name of society.
Oh, really?
And I said, really? And I said, well, can we do, perfume discovery trading as the Perfume Society? And they said, no, you can't trade as a society. So I went to my lawyer. And it's one of those terms like royal or guild, or because it confers instant authority, you can't use it.
Or even like institute, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah. So you can't use it.
Oh, I never knew that.
So that went on the back burner. And I spent 3 months of kind of waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning, looking, going on my domain name provider, seeing if various alternatives. I probably own every domain to do with perfume in the world, actually, registering them, but none of them said what we really wanted to do. So it was actually my accountant about 3 months later who said, well, why don't the other thing, in order to do it, you have to get special permission from the Secretary of State for Trade and Industry, which seems very, very grown up. But the accountant just said, well, why don't you just ask? So we asked, and we had to state what we were planning to do and all this kind of thing. And anyway, we got permission and we could do it. So
incredible.
But meanwhile, I'd gone through all these other.
And it is a business then.
It's a business. So I realized that it was the perfect place to put Lorna's algorithm. So basically, we've got thousands of fragrances listed. And if you put on, I like, Estee Lauder Beautiful, it will suggest 6 other things you might well like. But also what we do is we do these beautiful discovery boxes, which are curations of fragrance samples supplied by the brand. So it's like a beauty box, but it's for perfume. We create very detailed smelling notes online, so you really get to understand the perfume and the story behind it, and the notes, and it asks you questions that kind of draw you into the fragrance, etc. And I have to say that during, since the beginning of the pandemic, it's gone a little bit nuts because you can't now walk into a shop and try a fragrance.
Right.
They're all the testers have been taken off the counters for hygiene reasons. So basically, if you want to try a perfume at the moment, the Perfume Society is pretty much the only place you can do it.
How amazing.
So,
and is that done from your basement too?
That's done from downstairs, yes. Well, except it's not now, because I sent them home the week before lockdown with their Macs.
Right.
And they all now very happily work from home.
Yeah.
Because we use an external warehouse fulfillment place, so I don't have any stock on the premises.
Yeah.
And
do you see any trends there with perfume? Are people going for
again,
more natural
no, they
oils?
are. They absolutely.
Yeah.
And sustainability is a buzzword. You know, that industry is going, because again, if you've got a vanilla farmer in Madagascar, you need to make it viable for that vanilla farmer to continue to grow your vanilla, rather than either move to a big city, which of course, stripped the countryside in this country during the agricultural revolution, or during the industrial revolution, or they get tempted to plant rubber or plant. So you've got this very precious commodity. You really have to work at building a relationship with that farmer to make it worth his while to stay on that land. And of course, that's what they want. They want security. They want more money. They want a reason to go on doing what they're doing. And that's why these partnerships are so effective. But it's an absolute buzzword in the industry. And again, refills, sustainability, and so in a way, it's taken longer than the rest of the beauty industry, but it's getting there. And I should say that we also produce a magazine. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm also a magazine editor. So,
goodness, and what is the magazine?
It's called The Scented Letter, and it comes out 6 times a year, and it's absolutely my finest editing hour. So I finally got my own magazine. And of course, the great thing about now...
And is that online as well?
It's online, but we also do print to order. And that's incredible now, the idea that you can have a magazine that you print a few hundred copies of.
That is amazing.
Whereas when I was editing magazines before, if you didn't have 20,000 order, it just couldn't be done.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's incredible. So I'm sort of like I'm speechless.
I'm going to lie down.
I'm speechless. So and that will all continue on. So in fact, the differences to the businesses that you still own and run from this COVID pandemic situation is that they have actually grown, that there is more because of the online.
Well, because we were already in the online arena, we didn't really have to scramble. And I mean, I'm so impressed by how many businesses have got it together to literally
adapt like
pivot on a dime. And we had local retailers who literally were putting things in their shops, and you could call up and buy it through the window.
We did the same thing.
And
we
went
online immediately.
Shopify, and it was
and changed products. I mean,
amazing.
I think it's very interesting this week that they're doing this big call up for everybody to go back to the offices. And they say the children
ain't going to happen.
Why would people want to go back to the offices? It's not either from the employer or the employee's perspective.
No. It's not going to happen. Certainly you can't say, don't go to work, and then turn around and say, go to work. It's not going to happen. We are living in the era of the death of the office.
Absolutely.
The death of the office as
and the death of, to a degree, of central cities that were reliant on this commute and all the businesses around it. So we're hearing very sad news about all the businesses making redundant.
Exactly.
But there are fantastic opportunities now, aren't there?
There are. And I think that from a well-being point of view, the not having to commute every day. What you can't do online and through, I mean, we use WhatsApp, we use Monday boards, which are a project management tool. WhatsApp is brilliant because I've got better in-team communications than I had at any point when I was running these businesses before, because we didn't use WhatsApp before. And we would be sending each other emails sitting next to each other in the office. Whereas now it's just a WhatsApp conversation with different teams have their different WhatsApps, etc. So everyone knows everything that's going on all the time. We use Monday, we use Google Docs for just sort of shared lists of things, etc. We are so much more efficient, but no brainstorming. Can't brainstorm.
Really?
You need to be face-to-face to brainstorm.
Interesting.
So we will be having collective gatherings, distanced, etc., but just where people can bounce ideas around. And I think the other place that it falls down is, and I think this could be what keeps many offices going, is training new people. I mean, can you imagine having an intern that worked remotely? It's just not going to happen.
Well, we've kept going. We have our young intern here, in fact, and we do brainstorming online actually, because a lot of the seed community who are involved in the development of seed are spread out.
Okay.
And it works, but there is also the advantage of being together in a room with the creativity.
There's something about that magnetic spark that humans give off.
I agree. Well, it's been an interesting time generally for people like you and I, who have been in business for a long time, to sort of be part of this new shift and this new change. So let's just, because we've actually gone quite brilliantly over this period of time that we've allotted ourselves, or you allotted me out of your holiday. But I just want to sort of bring us to the point of, like, this is now. We're not going back to how it was. We know it's not going back to how it was. We know there's going to be a new future. Obviously, both you and I and lots of others want it to be a better future. We don't want to go back to the worst habits of the past. How can we create something new? How can we do that together? How can we be smart about whether it's business, education, agriculture, and the economy itself? So if I said to you, what were the things that you are most passionate about now? Not necessarily to start a business in, although you might well do that, but to actually go forward. How can we create this change? How do you see things for the future? Say a year's time, 2 years' time.
You know, I think the strongest message that I hope comes out of this is actually about personal resilience and well-being. You know, this is something that I forgot to mention. I have a wellbeing centre.
Gosh, I forgot one of your businesses. Let's bring in the wellbeing centre at this point.
It's called the Wellington Centre. It's in Hastings, 9 rooms, Pilates centre, yoga centre, etc.
Beautiful. I've been there. It's beautiful. Wonderful old building.
Reflects my lifelong belief in personal responsibility for your health. It's something that when I give my speeches and things, I always talk about how important it is to look after yourself before you can look after your business, because there is no point running on empty, and it is not selfish to go for a walk at lunchtime and get your vitamin D, or it's not selfish to take vitamins, it's not selfish to go off and have the odd massage or spend 10 minutes meditating. It is what all of us have to find, this blueprint for personal wellness, and including with meditation. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, because you can't. I see the reason so many businesses fail often, I think, is because the founders throw in the towel because they're utterly exhausted and they can't go on. Yeah. And you can stop yourself getting to that point by taking care of yourself. And, you know, I would love to see a bigger focus on that from this government, because obviously we all want to be as healthy as we possibly can. You know, not just to not get a virus, but not to get a cold, not to get cancer, not to get, you know, mental health.
Because when I actually, which I don't often do, I actually turned off the news this morning.
Oh, don't watch it anyway.
No, I've stopped watching it, more or less. I've watched a little bit, but just to keep a vague eye on it, I see what's going on. But as the minute it goes into more figures, more statistics, it goes. No. You know, so for our well-being, it'd be lovely to think the government are going to put some effort into that. But
it would be good.
At the moment, they're doing everything that's almost anti-well-being,
but I think
because it's creating fear in everyone, which is not.
Well, fear is a great way to control people. Yeah. You know. Yeah. But I think that the other thing that will come out of it is that I truly believe that people will want to. I think we will shop much more in a much more considered way. Yes. I think that idea of just going out to spend money. Most of the time you went out to spend money, it was because you were knackered and you needed a treat. And if you're just a bit less knackered because you're not having to commute every day, you probably won't need to go out and splash it about quite so much. But I think that it's made us all think about what we really need, and the brands that we want to support and the companies that we want to support are the ones that are showing that they care, whether they care for people, whether they care for the environment,
So they're having a relationship.
They're having a relationship.
And creating trust between the business and the consumer.
So I think that brands and businesses with strong values are going to flourish in the years to come. Which can only be a good thing, and it's exactly what I was trying to do 30 years ago when we started Green and Black. So,
yes, it was. And as we've mentioned, the wonderful late great Anita Roddick, the whole Social Venture Network team, the whole background of people. Well, you've been so successful, but I've been sort of piddling away.
You've done quite a bag yourself.
Well, Seed's gone out there, and the Seed handbook has sold all over the world.
I know, and I've given it to so many people as their first. So step in business.
We were part of that era, and Catherine Hanna with her slogan T-shirts, and that sort of generation, if you like. I mean, you are a bit younger than me, quite a bit younger than me, but even so, that generation of us from the sort of 70s and 80s, and those things we talked about, and often considered like by the media, let's say, or politicians, what on earth are we talking about? Is exactly where we are now, and it's time for all those things we've learned to go out there in a really huge way.
Yes, absolutely.
And using technology to do it.
An amazing point where we can actually change society.
We want to make the changes. First of all, to be the change, as you quite rightly say, look after our own well-being, and then create those changes in society. And now is the time. They've allowed us this space to, by all this panic and fear and change and control, they've actually created this huge door opening, where we can step through now and create the world we want to see.
Just look at the number of people who've taken up growing veg and growing plants and gardening for the
and eating those veg and looking at the whole area of what's going on in their bodies, what's going on in their bodies. Yes, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, so
I do feel positive about it.
Yes, I do too.
I still think it's a very strange world out there at the moment.
Yes,
and there are good things, and there are things that really just aren't as much fun as they were for the moment.
Yes.
But hopefully by next summer we'll be back to a sort of more normal life. And meanwhile,
you never liked going on planes anyway, so the travel thing. And for me, it's about actually being made to stay still and not run around. It's been an enormous.
Gosh, you must never have. I mean, I've never spent 120 nights in my own bed ever in my life. I don't think, even when I was a baby.
Yeah, I'm so glad I made this beautiful home for myself here in Somerset at the right time. The dog's less neurotic. The cat's less, we're settled.
I don't think any of us will be rocketing around the way we did.
I don't think so.
So that's been amazing to just learn to
be still,
a bit more still.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have got some of our Seed members on the call live, and I don't know if any of them want to have any, or they have any questions for you, Joe. You can just put it onto the. Can any of you open up the chat and just type in if you've got any questions, burning questions that you'd like to ask Joe? These are all. We have a wonderful tribe of Seed women who I speak to on Facebook Live. Have been right the way through the pandemic at one point every night, and it's really come together through retreats and through workshops.
Yeah,
and
no, I know, it's amazing.
Each other. There's a real tribe there. So got a few of them on today. So any of you who want to write anything now, this is your chance, or send it to me. If not, no, don't send it to me. Actually, this is your chance. Come think about it. It'll be now.
I'm going home after this.
Yes, Joe's going back to Hastings.
Last day of my holiday.
Going back to Hastings, and here she is spending it with us and Seed. So, somebody here has got a question. Chris is saying, because I can't now read it.
Hang on.
Really get the cash
up at the end of the day. Yes, I did get the cash up. How did I keep up my energy during that time? I meditated for 10 minutes every morning. I ate as well as I could, in that we've always eaten incredibly well at home. Brown rice and vegetables are the core of what we eat even now.
Yes.
I did have to try a lot of donuts that were being, because you're trying to convert an organic donut to organic. You've got to check that it tastes okay. And I swear that every time I was trying one of the donuts, Craig would walk in and there I'd be with another donut in place. I would still I would swim, I'd grab a lunch hour, I'd go down to the beach, I'd have a swim.
Because you and Craig are in that water every day of the year.
We're little water babes.
Yes,
we are. And I've always taken vitamins. I've always taken supplements, because I realised that even you know, my diet doesn't give me everything that I need every day.
Yeah.
Well, it probably has over the last few months, but on the road, you know, when you're just not at your own fridge, it's hard. So I've always taken supplements. So I you know, did all the things that I still talk about now. But and literally I would get home and I would go to sleep. I mean, I didn't have a life for 2 years. It was that much.
Because Chris works.
But yes, I did crash up, and I'm still crap at it.
I can't do it.
What's my morning routine?
That's from Maggie.
So I have, my best friend has a tea company called the Rare Tea Company. And I do start the day with 2 cups of strong English breakfast tea called Speedy Breakfast, which she invented for me.
Who's that?
Henrietta Lovell, she's called, and she's the rare tea lady.
Okay.
And I am powered in the morning by 2 cups of tea, but I don't drink coffee, and that's pretty much it for the day. And then before I go to work. So for the last few months, I have been going for a very long walk in the morning, first thing, literally before Craig even wakes up. So I'll go out at 5:40 or 6 o'clock to get my exercise, because I'm very keen on my 10,000 steps. And I will either do a walking meditation with calm.com, or I'll do 10 minutes of calm first thing before I get to my desk. And it's amazing the clarity that gives me. I can just work out what I need to do that day and write a list and do it. So that's my morning routine.
That's good. And then Rainbow.
But lists, I live by lists, and I live by project management tools online, etc. Because you can't. I know I can't remember things. I can't remember everything that has to be done.
Right.
So I just like. Oh, thank you, Rainbow Aunt.
Who's
great name, by the way.
Yes. So yes, you've enjoyed it. So very interesting and inspiring. Well,
thank you.
It has been.
It's been really fun.
And
do I have an evening routine? Well, I basically, I'm like the dormouse. I take my makeup off, I go to bed, I try and read a book. I read 1 page of a book, and the next thing I know, my husband is removing the book from my chest, removing the glasses from my nose, and turning out my bedside light and kissing me goodnight, because I am incapable of staying awake after about 9:30 at night. It's just, you can't get up at 5:30 in the morning, and it's just not doable. No. So I'm really bad at parties and dinners and all of that stuff. I've realised it's no point even pretending that I'm going to go out now at night, unless it's a 6:30, 7 o'clock dinner or something. You know, something has to give. Yeah. But I never really loved parties.
No.
You know,
I mean, I would have thought, from coming again from that particular sort of generation of the 70s. You have parties, but I think on the whole, we've done our parties. Well, actually, I still love a good party. I can't lie. I do still love a good party. And here at the Seed Hub, we have had some amazing ones since we started, which sadly had to go on hold, but we will bring them back. So we all love a party. But during the week, I'm out cold, and it's me, the cat, and the dog, and we're all 3 of us sprawled out. So I totally get it. It's only so much. Fantastic. Well, thank you, those of you who have come on, and those of you who will be listening. We'll be putting this out shortly to the world, which is, and thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you coming this morning.
I've been wanting to see your hub.
The Seed Hub is fabulous. So thank you. And I hope you'll be back. That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
So thank you very, very much indeed.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye.